What happens when a spiritual teacher returns to his homeland after an intense journey across continents? Swami Vivekananda's time in America and his reflections on his experiences reveal a profound evolution in his mission and teachings. Welcome back to our exploration of Swami Vivekananda's extraordinary life. In this episode, we delve into his transformative period after returning to New York from England. We'll uncover his deep impact on his followers, his insights into English and American character, and his profound lectures that resonated across diverse audiences. Join us as we witness the culmination of Vivekananda's Western journey and the beginning of a new chapter in his spiritual mission. It was at first difficult for Miss Noble to accept Swami Vivekananda's views. But before he left London, she had begun to address him as Master, recalling those first meetings in London and their decisive influence on her life. Nivedita wrote in 1904 to a friend, "Suppose he had not come to London that time. Life would have been like a headless dream, for I always knew that I was waiting for something. I always said that a call would come, and it did. But if I had known more of life, I doubt whether when the time came I should certainly have recognized it. Fortunately, I knew little and was spared that torture. Always I had this burning voice within, but nothing to utter. How often and often I sat down, pen in hand, to speak, and there was no speech. And now there is no end to it. As surely I am fitted to my world, so surely is my world in need of me, waiting, ready. The arrow has found its place in the bow. But if he had not come, if he had meditated on the Himalayan peaks, I, for one, had never been here." Swami Vivekananda and Mr. Sturdy soon began an English translation of the Bhakti aphorisms of Narada. At this time, the idea came to the Swami's mind that a religion could not have permanent hold upon people without organization and rituals. A mere loose system of philosophy, he realized, soon lost its appeal. He saw the need, therefore, of formulating rituals on the basis of the Upanishadic truths, which would serve a person from birth to death, rituals that would prepare for the ultimate realization of the supramental absolute. His stay in England was very short, but his insight enabled him to appraise the English character with considerable accuracy. He wrote to a devotee on November 18th, 1895, "In England, my work is really splendid. I am astonished myself at it. The English do not talk much in the newspapers, but they work silently. I'm sure of having done more work in England than in America." And in another letter, written on November 13th, to a brother disciple in India, "Every enterprise in this country takes some time to get started. But once John Bull sets his hand to a thing, he will never let it go. The Americans are quick, but they are somewhat like straw on fire, ready to be extinguished." The Swami had been receiving letters from American devotees asking him to come back. A rich lady from Boston promised to support his work in New York throughout the winter. Before leaving England, however, he arranged that Mr. Sturdy should conduct the classes in London till the arrival of a new Swami from India, about the need of whom he was writing constantly to his brother disciples at the Baranagore Monastery. On December 6, 1895, Swami Vivekananda returned to New York after his 2 months' stay in England in excellent health and spirits. During his absence abroad, regular classes had been carried on by his American disciples Kripananda, Abhayananda and Miss Waldo, who taught Raja Yoga in both its practical and its theoretical aspects. Together with Kripananda, he took up new quarters, consisting of 2 spacious rooms, which could accommodate 150 persons. The Swami at once plunged into activity and gave a series of talks on work as a spiritual discipline. These talks were subsequently published as Karma Yoga, which is considered one of his best books. In the meantime, the devotees of the Swami had been feeling the need of a stenographer to take down his talks in the classes and on public platforms. Many of his precious speeches had already been lost because there had been no reporter to record them. Fortunately, there appeared on the scene an Englishman, J.J., Goodwin, who was at first employed as a professional stenographer, in a few days, however, he was so impressed by the Swami's life and message that he became his disciple and offered his services free, with the remark that if the teacher could give his whole life to help mankind, he, the disciple, could at least give his services as an offering of love. Goodwin followed the Swami like a shadow in America, Europe and India. He recorded many of the public utterances of Vivekananda, now preserved in published books, and thereby earned the everlasting gratitude of countless men and women. The Swami spent Christmas of 1895 with Mr. and Mrs. Leggett at their country home, Ridgely Manor, which he frequently visited in order to enjoy a respite from his hard work in New York. But even there he would give exalted spiritual discourses, as will be evident from the following excerpt from a letter written by Mr. Leggett. On January 10th, 1896, to Miss MacLeod, one night at Ridgely, we were all spellbound by his eloquence. Such thought I have never heard expressed by mortal man, such as he uttered for 2.5 hours. We were all deeply affected, and I would give $100 for a typewritten verbatim report of it. Swami was inspired to a degree that I have never seen before or since. He leaves us soon, and perhaps we shall never see him again. But he will leave an ineffaceable impress on our hearts that will comfort us to the end of our earthly careers. After a short visit to Boston as the guest of Mrs. Bull, the Swami commenced a series of public lectures in New York at Hardeman Hall, the People's Church, and later at Madison Square Garden, which had a seating capacity of 1,500 people. In the last mentioned place, he gave his famous lectures on love as a spiritual discipline, which were subsequently published as Bhakti Yoga. Both the lectures of the Swami and his personality received favorable comment from the newspapers. He initiated into monastic life Dr. Street, who assumed the name of Yogananda. Mrs. Ella Wheeler Wilcox, one of the founders of the New Thought movement in America, spoke highly of the Swami's teachings. She and her husband first went to hear him out of curiosity, and what happened afterwards may be told in her own words. Before we had been 10 minutes in the audience, we felt ourselves lifted up into an atmosphere so rarefied, so vital, so wonderful, that we sat spellbound and almost breathless to the end of that lecture. When it was over, we went out with new courage, new hope, new strength, new faith to meet life's daily vicissitudes. It was that terrible winter of financial disasters, when banks failed and stocks went down like broken balloons, and businessmen walked through the dark valleys of despair, and the whole world seemed topsy-turvy. Sometimes, after sleepless nights of worry and anxiety, my husband would go with me to hear the Swami lecture, and then he would come out into the winter gloom and walk down the street smiling and say, "It is all right. There is nothing to worry over." And I would go back to my own duties and pleasures with the same uplifted sense of soul and enlarged vision. "I do not come to convert you to a new belief," he said. "I want you to keep your own belief. I want to make the Methodist a better Methodist, the Presbyterian a better Presbyterian, the Unitarian a better Unitarian. I want to teach you to live the truth, to reveal the light within your own soul." He gave the message that strengthened the man of business, that caused the frivolous society woman to pause and think, that gave the artist new aspirations, that imbued the wife and mother, the husband and father, with a larger and a holier comprehension of duty. Having finished his work in New York, the Swami, accompanied by Goodwin, left for Detroit. The main theme of his lectures and class talks there was bhakti, or love of God. At that time he was all love. A kind of divine madness seemed to have taken possession of him, as if his heart would burst with longing for the beloved mother. He gave his last public lecture at Temple Beth El, of which Rabbi Louis Grossman, an ardent admirer of the Swami, was the leader. The Swami cast a spell, as it were, over the whole audience. "Never," wrote Mrs. Funke, "had I seen the master look as he looked that night. there was something in his beauty not of earth. It was as if the spirit had almost burst the bonds of flesh, and it was then that I saw a foreshadowing of the end. He was much exhausted from the years of overwork, and it was even then to be seen that he was not long for this world. I tried to close my eyes to it, but in my heart I knew the truth. He had needed rest, but felt that he must go on. The idea that his years were numbered came to Swami Vivekananda again and again. He would often say at this time, "Oh, the body is a terrible bondage," or "How I wish that I could hide myself forever." The notebook that he had carried during his wanderings in India contained these significant words, "Now to seek a corner and lay myself down to die." In a letter to a friend, he quoted these words and said, "Yet all this karma remained. I hope I have now worked it out. It appears like a hallucination that I was in these childish dreams of doing this and doing that. I am getting out of them. Perhaps these mad desires were necessary to bring me over to this country, and I thank the Lord for the experience." In our next episode, we shift our focus to a crucial phase in Swami Vivekananda's career: his landmark lecture at Harvard, the establishment of the Vedanta Society, and his vision for a deeper interchange between East and West. Join us as we delve into how these experiences shaped his mission and left an indelible mark on both Eastern and Western thought. Thank you for listening till the end. Please subscribe, turn on the notifications, like, comment, and share with your friends. This will help more listeners to discover our channel and content.